Karoline Leavitt stunned the nation when she humiliated Ricky Gervais live on television, leaving viewers across the globe absolutely speechless. What was supposed to be a routine political discussion turned into an unforgettable showdown of wit, confidence, and unexpected dominance from the young political firebrand. And while Ricky Gervais is known for his biting humor and no-holds-barred commentary, this time it was Karoline who flipped the script, and she did it flawlessly. Karoline Leavitt, a rising conservative voice and former White House staffer, under the Trump administration, was invited to a prime-time panel discussion alongside British comedian and commentator Ricky Gervais. The segment was meant to be a light-hearted exploration of politics, comedy, and cancel culture. But tensions quickly escalated when Gervais, in his signature satirical style, took a jab at what he called the manufactured outrage culture of American conservatism. Karoline didn't even blink. She fired back with a calm but sharp rebuttal, dismantling Gervais's remarks with facts, conviction, and a touch of sarcasm that caught even the host off guard. "You talk about manufactured outrage, Ricky," she said, "but the only thing manufactured is the illusion that comedians are untouchable when they hide behind jokes to excuse ignorance." Boom. The crowd went silent. Ricky raised his eyebrows, clearly not expecting a counterpunch that fast or that fierce. He tried to laugh it off, tossing out a quip about politicians lacking a sense of humor, but Karoline didn't let go. She continued with poise, explaining how comedy has long played a role in shaping public opinion, but that doesn't exempt comedians from accountability. The live audience, initially chuckling at Gervais' usual snark, started to shift. The mood changed. Viewers at home began flooding social media. Twitter lit up with hashtags like Karoline Clapback and Gervais owned. Clips of the moment went viral before the show had even ended. Then came the part that made headlines. Ricky, attempting to regain control, threw out a sarcastic jab. "Well, I suppose we should all just stop laughing and let Karoline run the world." Without missing a beat, she smiled and replied, "If that's what it takes to bring back common sense, maybe I should." The crowd erupted. That wasn't just a response, it was a mic drop. Political commentators on both sides of the aisle weighed in within hours. Some praised Karoline for holding her ground and refusing to let humor be a shield for undermining serious topics. Others criticized the exchange, claiming it was unfair to pit a political figure against a comedian. But regardless of where they stood, one thing was certain. Karoline Leavitt had made her mark in a way no one expected. The viral moment sparked debate beyond the show itself. News outlets covered the clash extensively, calling it a pivotal moment for Gen Z conservatism and proof that the political right is no longer afraid to challenge pop culture elites on their own turf. Commentators pointed out how the younger generation of conservative voices, especially women, are rising with a fearless, unapologetic tone that's reshaping political discourse. Meanwhile, Ricky Gervais remained mostly silent after the event, only offering a vague tweet that read, "Live TV, gotta love it." Some fans defended him, saying he was simply being himself. Others admitted he looked unprepared for Karoline's level-headed yet assertive response. It wasn't just about who won the argument, it was about the optics, the symbolism, and the shifting cultural tide. Karoline Leavitt didn't just hold her own against one of the sharpest tongues in entertainment. She exposed a deeper truth, that the old rules of who gets to speak, joke, or lead the conversation are being rewritten in real time. And what made this moment even more powerful was Karoline's composure. She didn't resort to yelling, name-calling, or grandstanding. She let her intellect and conviction speak louder than any punchline. That's what resonated. That's what turned a brief exchange into a defining cultural moment. People started sharing the video with captions like, "This is how it's done," and Karoline just bodied Ricky on his own stage. Political memes exploded overnight. Talk shows replayed the clip with some left-leaning commentators begrudgingly admitting Karoline was impressive, even if they disagreed with her politics. For Karoline Leavitt, the moment catapulted her visibility to new heights. Already considered a rising star in conservative circles, this clash solidified her status as someone to watch. not just for what she stands for, but for how she delivers her message. Bold, clear, and unshaken. And the ripple effects? They're still being felt. In the days that followed, the media buzz didn't die down. In fact, it intensified. Conservative outlets praised Karoline's performance as a turning point for younger Republicans, calling her a modern-day David in a battle of wits against Goliath. She was invited onto podcast after podcast, where she broke down her side of the confrontation, always staying composed, focused, and unapologetically firm in her beliefs. What really stood out in these appearances was how she refused to gloat. She wasn't interested in dunking on Ricky Gervais. She was focused on the bigger picture. "It's not about embarrassing someone on live TV," she said in one interview. "It's about making sure that conservatives, especially young ones, don't get silenced or laughed out of the room just because they're not following Hollywood's script." That line? It went viral too. Meanwhile, Ricky Gervais avoided interviews. For a comedian who's known to dive headfirst into controversy, his relative silence was telling. A few tweets here and there, but no full response, no clapback, no second round. Some fans speculated he didn't want to give Karoline more airtime. Others thought he was genuinely caught off guard and didn't quite know how to respond to someone who challenged him with such clarity, and didn't play into the emotional chaos he usually thrives on. It's rare to see a cultural moment like this one. We've seen comedians roast politicians. We've seen politicians squirm under pressure. But this moment was different. Karoline didn't squirm. She stood her ground. And while Ricky Gervais is a master at weaponizing humor to make a point, he encountered something he wasn't ready for. A calm, confident, Gen Z woman who knows exactly what she stands for. The exchange sparked deeper conversations around the role of comedy in politics. Are comedians above criticism? Is every joke just a joke? Or are some jokes a mask for ideas that need to be questioned? Karoline's performance made people reconsider. Not just her political opponents, but also independents and moderates who hadn't seen her in action before. The viral moment served as a masterclass in how to challenge a cultural icon without losing your cool, and without losing the room. Online, the divide was clear. Social media was split between those who thought Karoline overreacted and those who applauded her ability to speak truth to entertainment power. But even among Ricky's most loyal fans, there was an undertone of surprise. The common theme? He usually owns the moment. This time someone else did. What's most fascinating about this story isn't just the clash of personalities, it's what it revealed about the changing tide in culture and media. For years, figures like Ricky Gervais have held the spotlight, delivering blistering takedowns of political figures with wit and arrogance. But Karoline flipped that model on its head. She didn't shout. She didn't crack jokes. She let her ideas do the talking, and they hit harder than any punchline. The TV moment has already made its way into political highlight reels, Gen Z TikToks, and even university debate classes. Students across the country are analyzing her rhetorical strategy, her poise, her ability to stay on message while taking control of the narrative. She's become a symbol of a new kind of conservatism, one that doesn't shy away from cultural battles, but steps into them with intelligence and intent. Karoline Leavitt may not have set out to humiliate Ricky Gervais that night. But what she did do was prove that political confidence, when rooted in conviction and composure, can outshine even the sharpest satire. In an era where viral moments define careers, this one might just define hers. And for Ricky, it's a moment he'll likely never forget, not because it was his best joke, but because, for once, the laughter wasn't on his side. In the end, whether you're cheering for Karoline or defending Ricky, one thing is certain. The game has changed, and Karoline Leavitt just walked onto the field with a whole new playbook. And that new playbook? It's resonating with a growing audience, especially the younger generation that's increasingly tuning out the mainstream narrative and looking for voices that aren't afraid to challenge the status quo. Karoline Leavitt, with that single viral moment, became more than a political personality. She became a cultural force, someone who could sit across from one of the most fearless voices in comedy and not just survive the encounter, but dominate it. In the weeks after the incident, college campuses began requesting Karoline to speak. Invitations poured in from political student groups and organizations across the ideological spectrum. What many found interesting wasn't just what she said, but how she said it. She wasn't shouting into a void, she was speaking to people. Clear, intentional, persuasive. She knew her stuff, and even those who disagreed couldn't deny that she came prepared, articulate, and unshaken. One particular interview after the event stood out. When asked how it felt to win against someone like Ricky Gervais, Karoline chuckled and said, "It wasn't about winning. It was about proving that being young and conservative isn't a contradiction and that we can engage in these conversations without being talked over or laughed off the stage." That statement alone garnered hundreds of thousands of shares and likes online. What's even more fascinating is how the confrontation has started to blur the lines between entertainment and politics even further. A lot of younger viewers, who might not have been politically engaged before, are now paying attention, not just because of Karoline's politics, but because she proved that politics can be entertaining when it's done right. She brought fire without rage, debate without chaos. She didn't cancel, she conversed. And that's something people on both sides of the aisle can't help but respect. Meanwhile, media commentators have begun analyzing the moment as a case study in modern discourse. On one end, Ricky Gervais represents the old guard, bold, irreverent, unfiltered. On the other, Karoline Leavitt represents the new wave, strategic, sharp, unafraid to push back with reason instead of rage. Their clash was more than just a viral TV moment, it was a metaphor for a broader cultural shift. And it's already influencing other voices in the public arena. Younger political commentators, both conservative and liberal, are taking notes. They're realizing that authenticity trumps outrage, clarity outlasts chaos, and sometimes the most powerful moment isn't the loudest, it's the most unexpected one. Even some of Gervais's longtime fans have taken to forums and comment sections to admit they were impressed. Not necessarily converted politically, but impressed by how someone so young could stand toe-to-toe with a seasoned public figure and walk away not just unscathed, but elevated. Behind the scenes, insiders say Karoline's team is already leveraging the momentum. New media projects, speaking engagements, and even rumblings of a future podcast are in the works, designed to continue pushing the conversation forward and give Karoline a bigger platform to do what she just proved she's more than capable of doing: challenge conventional narratives head-on and do it with style. For Ricky Gervais, this may simply become one awkward moment in a career filled with unapologetic jabs and viral controversies. He's no stranger to backlash or opposition, but this time the reaction felt different. Not because he was attacked, but because he met his match in someone most viewers didn't see coming. And that's what makes this story so compelling. It wasn't just about a clash of ideologies, it was about a shift in the cultural power dynamic. A moment when the punchline didn't land, and the politician didn't flinch. A moment that reminded us all. Sometimes the most dangerous voice in the room isn't the loudest. It's the calm, confident one that knows exactly what it's doing. Karoline Leavitt didn't just humiliate Ricky Gervais. She redefined what it means to show up, speak out, and stand firm, no matter who's sitting across from you. And as the world continues to replay that now infamous segment, one thing is clear. This wasn't just a moment, it was a message, and it was heard loud and clear.